Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Galactic Reviews. We went and watched the new movie Civil War starring Christian Dunst, I believe is her last name. Honestly, I liked this movie. I did. But it kind of throws you in there. Zero reason as to why a civil war is going on, just there's a civil war going on and she's a war photographer, and you follow the story of her going through America trying to get to Washington, D.C., so she can interview the president of the United States. And that's the premise of the whole movie, pretty much
Yeah.
wrapped up. It's pretty straightforward, but even with that, it is I'm trying to think of the word I want to use. It's an interesting movie. Just a little confused on some parts. It doesn't give you what part of the world is fighting what, or what part of America is fighting what. The only thing it refers to are three different states: California, Texas, and Florida.
Yeah.
I understand they're fighting against the rest of America, but I don't know who else is sided with them, especially since when you see the American flag, it only has two stars,
Yeah.
which signifies only two states, I'm assuming.
So from what I gathered from the movie, that's the Texas and California flag. And
It-
Florida is kind of on its
well, it
Florida has
boils
like
down to
formed
one of
its
those things of
yeah.
why in the world is Texas and California teaming up? That's the part that I don't understand because they're so polar opposites and they
My
disagree
guess
so
is
much with each other.
my guess is they did that in order to make it um less so comparable to the world at now.
I mean, okay, I suppose kind of
But
just
that's
to
the
make it
only
more of
reason
a
because it makes, like you said, it makes no sense
yeah.
why
Okay, I can understand to make it to be
that's
less
the
likely to point out, oh, these states are the ones that's gonna
yeah. Because
turn on us.
that's the
Although
only
out of
conclusion I can come up with.
okay,
So
okay, I can somewhat understand that a little bit more as a science fiction aspect,
because the other
or
option
not a
you can
science fiction.
because the only other option that you can think of is if the very woke California can somehow find an agreement with the very um conservative Texas, then we're gonna have a civil war if they ever come to an agreement.
I think that
So
that's the that I think that's the biggest part that confused me the
yeah.
most was the very beginning of the movie where they announced California and Texas teaming up to take on the rest of America.
Yeah, and it seems like if I remember the movie correctly, it seems like Florida and a coalition of other states are kind of just staying out of it. They're not really partaking
No,
much
I
in it.
thought no. From what I understand, Florida was it's almost like its own group trying to change others to that side, kind of like a rebellion to because they said California and Texas were together, and then rebel Florida was trying to convince the South Carolinas to join them in their fight. So I'm like, I don't it doesn't give enough backstory on
Yeah.
who's on what side. It's mostly a war photographer moving through America. I forget where they start in the beginning of the movie.
New York,
New
I think.
York, going
Yeah.
from New York to Washington, D.C., to interview the president at the White House. And that's the all pretty much all the information we get from this movie. We pick up bits and details of what's going on a little bit throughout the movie, but not enough to get a full grasp of how it started or anything. Just kind of, it's just a civil war. With that, I would give this movie, honestly, probably a 7.5. It was a visually well put together movie. Visually it was good. It was very well uh, Like the fight scenes, all of that, very good. Every time they took a picture, the way they captured everything, that was very good. That's why I'm giving it a little bit higher, because I thought it was visually a well put together movie. The story, I can't say I 100% enjoy it solely because we are left in the dark with so much information, that it's a little hard to kind of understand why America has gotten to this point for you to really get attached to the story. It's mostly you getting attached to these few characters, and even then, you don't really get attached to them um all that much, in my opinion. They kind of try to distance themselves from, or at least Kristen Dunst's character tries to distance herself from all the other characters somewhat. You only see at the very end of the movie her kind of break just a little bit, and then that's it. Visually, I think it's a good movie. But other than that, eh.
So I will agree with you on the visual side of things, but that's about it. I did not like this movie. I found the story to be, well, the story in and of its, I guess, like the overall arcing story theme,
Mhm.
it could have been like it could have been good.
Yeah, no, if
I
we
just think the
had,
way it was implemented, the way
yeah,
the
if we
story,
had
the
a lot
characters are
more
written.
information, yeah, if we had a lot more information,
Well,
I
not only
think it would have made it would have been more interesting. Or if we just didn't follow people, just the press, people taking pictures.
if I wish the story was more cohesive,
Well, yeah, yeah.
because what we got was we're having to piece a lot of the stuff together as the audience, and the clues that we are given are along the lines of the president didn't want to give up the election and decided to run for a third term, which is against
Which
Constitution.
is
I
against
think
Constitution unless it's in a state of war.
yes, but I would think that, but they don't say whether or not the Civil War began before he decided to run again.
Yep.
So, but they kind of implied that that was a reasoning for why the Civil War began anyway, is when he ran for a third term.
Oh,
He
is that?
disbanded. I think it's kind of mentioned briefly when the guy's trying to get
Yeah,
him to
I
ask
re
him questions. So
yeah.
it doesn't really say, but it might be implied. It does a lot of that vagary a lot in this movie where you're kind of trying to piece everything together. Um, which I get why they were doing that, but they were also going a little bit too close to, I guess, the truth as to like stuff that's happened a lot. Like
Yeah,
when they
they
were
were
saying like disbanding the FBI and CIA and stuff, which is stuff that President Trump, I think he's been the only president that said he's going to do that, or
well,
presidential candidate.
and then it was like with Kristen Dunst's character, they said the reason why she became, or for the little girl, why she became so famous was for taking that single photo of the Antifa riots.
Yeah, stuff
So
like that.
it's like, where does this story, Civil War, start? How long has it been going on? Like, that's the biggest problem with
Yeah,
this. We have no understanding of why this is happening, just it's happening.
yeah.
They kind of just, I don't know if they just didn't want to, um, I don't know. To me, that's the biggest problem with this movie.
And I'm grateful that they somewhat tried to not be, I guess, be partisan and kind of create
Yes.
something like out of pocket in order to not make it any political party
And
good or
I think
evil.
the way, yeah, I think the way
But
they did
they
it of
do
not
hint.
really, they don't, because in this movie, they don't really choose sides
No, the press
on,
does a lot.
well, for the press follows, I mean,
It's
I don't
it's
know. It's,
they
it's
kind of
weird
lean you more
on
to, they try to
how
lean you more in the line of the president is in this
the
situation
president's, yeah,
has turned evil.
yes,
And
but it gives us no reason as to why he's evil, why they're fighting
no,
against him, why they're hating him.
yeah, and why this other side should be considered sort of righteous in their goals and aspirations when they're going around killing innocent people that have their hands up saying we're willing to surrender under certain terms, and then they just go out and shoot them. That's a war crime if I'm not mistaken.
It is a war
So
crime. But then again, it also goes down to of the only interaction we had with the actual military was when the chick and the Chinese guy was captured,
yeah, and even though we don't even know if that's actual military or somebody that was just wearing a military garb, we don't know for sure.
or just a military radicalist.
Yeah, we
Like
don't we
for
don't
the, yeah,
we have
because
no
even
clue.
even because even they said this shouldn't be happening if they don't want this to be seen. They
Yeah,
don't want
well,
this to be known.
they're kind of
So this
implying
could,
that it's
yeah,
a whole
this
bunch of
could have been
stuff.
a, yeah, that could have been like a radicalist branch of what.
It could have been,
So
but
it there's so much of a gray area in this movie of not knowing, not understanding that that's the biggest downfall of this movie plot wise.
yeah, and they have
Um,
enough. Like I've
I
said before, they have
enjoyed, yeah,
enough. They have enough gray area where they could say that could point say like non-biases on the whole thing, but there's enough of it pointed in a single direction that I could see, okay, that if somebody was to say, hey, yeah, this thing is not non-biased at all, and they could just point at things at one thing after the other, and you can be like, well, okay, you got a point. Like, can't refute
yeah.
that. I'm not saying that
Honestly, all they needed to do was give, I think, in the movie one reason as to why the Civil War started.
like this guy rose up out of a third party, took over the United States, and then he's just become an enemy to everybody when everybody thought he was their hero. That's something that they could have done, but instead they kind of
Yeah,
left it vague, pointed it a little bit. It could have been done a lot better.
I enjoyed the idea of following the press instead of kind of following the like a military group or military tactics, kind of like that, to going through this. I think
Eh,
that's a
I
unique,
wouldn't have minded it if
interesting.
the yeah, I wouldn't have
It
minded
was
it
unique.
if it
I
was
think that's
unique.
what
Yeah.
makes this movie different.
What makes this movie different is that the characters have no moral compass and kind of just leave people to
well,
die.
they have a moral compass. They just detach themselves from
They let the
everything.
guy they were riding with bleed out in the van.
Well, I mean, it's a civil war. I'm sure they couldn't find a hospital.
I'm pretty sure they
And
could have at least tried to, stop the bleeding.
well, from where it was, there was probably already internal bleeding and everything. It
True, but
probably wouldn't have helped.
true, but
So,
we were able to get to a naval base or some kind of military base which would have a doctor. It's not, and it doesn't
well,
say how
no,
far
I
out
do.
they were. And
Yeah,
there
there
are
was a
some
lot
things
of,
where
yeah,
it's very vague and very poorly vague, and
yeah.
the characters you don't really care to like them because they've they've supposedly seen a lot of crap and done nothing to stop said crap other than just say, oh, point at crap. They haven't really said, hey, like we're trying to help you in any
It's
Samaritan way.
the
And
biggest thing. I don't know if it's actually how they do it. I 100% doubt, and if it is, I'm surprised. Um, how like during the flashback montage of her taking pictures, how she's like just standing casually in the middle while they put like this tire around someone and lit them on fire and everything. And I'm like, I, and they're not doing anything
yeah,
to you. You're
and he's
just
looking
standing
right
there
at her
taking
too.
pictures.
Oh no,
Like,
what's even better is like at the beginning when there's a whole bunch of like the bomb, like somebody with an American flag suicide bomber,
yeah.
which great, wonderful thing to put in there. Considering that what group really likes American flag right now. and then like they're looking for like survivors, like other policemen that were nearby, and firefighters come in and like help look for survivors, and some other civilians come in and help look for survivors, and she's just there over people's dead bodies and some people living bodies, taking pictures, not helping at all.
Yeah, so I it's one of those things I 100% don't believe that's how they do it. And if that is, then I just feel like that's a poor demonstration of how they do war photography.
I don't. I
But then
just.
again, I have no idea how they do it technically.
I
I
just don't.
understand you do have to detach yourself. You do have to like, it's a lot of mental stuff.
And I get that
But
because you're seeing a
I,
lot of mental stuff and you're
yeah,
not actually partaking in the fighting. You're just there to
yes,
witness it. I get that.
yes, I get
But
that.
you can at
But
least help stop the fighting, like at least help people that are injured get out of there. Like it's not that
yeah,
much of a,
so it
and you have press pass. Like nobody's going to try
and
to
like
shoot
and
at
yeah,
you.
yeah. It's the same like you're part of the medical team. You have the medical helmet. We're gonna shoot
Yeah.
you first.
Yeah.
You have a press pass. Oh, you're just immune.
I don't get it. Like they don't get shot at all
I
except at the very end. It's
and yeah, I really enjoyed that. You're gonna like during an open gunfight, run in between the hallway to take pictures.
Yeah, I think what they usually, if I'm not mistaken, what they usually do is they're either in a very safe place, like in a bunker or something, or they're
Hmm.
in, or they're going like, or they're going to like a battlefield during the aftermath of everything.
During well, I know I'm
Because I
pretty
don't
sure
think
there
they
was
go in right in the
also
middle of everything.
well, the thing is I think during some wars they did, but they were also armed. They were military personnel
Yeah,
anyways. So they were
that's
trained in gunfight and everything. They would take a picture if possible.
yeah. Because they can't just be like, "Hey, I know you're about to fight, but please, can I get a picture? Can you
Hey,
guys
time out, guys.
get
Can you
together,
guys
say
pose for
cheese?
me?
Can you guys get together, say cheese? Okay, go back to
Yeah,
blowing each other's brains out, please. Okay, like it
yeah.
makes
It's it's like I said, I enjoy the idea and the concept of this film. I just think the script is poorly executed visually. I enjoyed this movie. I think it was great visually.
yeah. I
But
think
there
the
are so many gray areas in the script that it's difficult to understand the reasoning as to why all of this is going on. And people can say, "Oh, you're just supposed to be following the story of this war photographer. It's just this, you're just going through taking pictures of the war," which I do understand that. But at the same time, you would like to know what started this war and why they are taking pictures. Are they just taking pictures? Because even she said, in the beginning of the movie, I took pictures of wars so to hope that it would prevent people from starting wars in our own
back
country.
home, yeah.
So what started this war?
Well, they apparently must have gotten somebody else in a bunch of tires and lit them on fire. That's what started this war. They got the vice president in a tire ring. It makes no like they're very
Yeah, yeah,
the
no, yeah,
concept. I will agree with you that the visually it is like cinematography wise it looks good, and they kind of knew what they were doing on that front. Concept wise, I think the concept has potential. It's just the implementation, the way that
yes,
the overall story and the way they thought through everything for the story, or lack thereof of thinking through the whole thing for the story. The main
yeah,
characters that you're following, the antagonist, the way that they approach the whole bloody thing essentially sucks, and I just don't like that. So
yes.
I don't remember
So
anything about the score, but I also don't remember hating
there were
it at
only
all.
I think there were only like 3 or 4 songs
Okay, yeah, that's probably why I
that
didn't
played
remember
throughout
much.
this movie. It wasn't much, and it was only yeah, there was very little for the score throughout this movie. I only noticed it maybe 3, maybe 4 times. So
I like how for You remember that one moment where the press bus or the press van or whatever is going by and passing this property, and one they see a dead body and decide to keep driving.
Oh, with the sniper in it?
Yeah.
That one?
Well, there's a couple things I have wrong with it. One, we don't know if it's that guy's property and he's just protecting his property from the guys that actually were there and started firing at him first. We don't know who fired first.
Well, we don't, but
And we don't even
honestly,
know who the guy is in the we don't know a
I
lot of
was
things. We're just thrown in the middle of it and just
well, the
told to
thing was
go, hey, go
I
along with
was
this person.
I was 100% thinking there was going to be no one around, and it was just like there were landmines.
That would have been fun. That would have been a good
That's
end of
what
the movie.
that's what I was expecting. I was like, okay, there's going to be landmines, so they're going to have to find a detoured route. No, it was something completely different,
Yeah,
completely out of pocket.
it
It
just
made sense, but at the same time, it's just one of those things of that was a huge house. Number one rule of a sniper, you shoot and you move. So what was
yeah.
he doing? Staying in one
I
window?
guess so because the other team was also sniping and staying in one spot as well.
Well, yes, but from
And
what I understand, they probably hadn't fired yet. But at the same time, he knew where they were.
yeah,
And
it
it looked like the sniper was not in that great of cover.
we
So the
also
dude could
yeah,
have 100% found him.
yeah.
I mean, it,
There's a lot of
it,
things I have wrong. That whole scene was like, well, we're just thrown into it and led to believe that the guys that are on the ground that are with the press are the good guys, but
well, yeah,
we don't
we
know the
don't, was
scenario.
that, I don't even know, was that the US military or was that the Texas California military there?
Judging by how they wanted us to think about them, I'm going to go with Texas, California military,
Well, I
but
don't
I don't
then
know.
yeah, because
They
there's
don't
so much
specifically
of
say,
yeah,
but
and the uniforms are pretty much identical except for the flag, but I didn't see a flag on
yeah.
their
Well,
uniform, so
considering how they say one likes the press and then one doesn't, and they're only really with one specific group
oh, did
throughout
they say
most of the
that?
thing.
I don't remember them
Well,
hearing. But even then,
they said the
it's
president
one
doesn't like the press, which I don't know how. Like most dictatorships, the first thing they get is the press to be on their side. So that makes zero sense why the press all of a sudden just decides. So, but
hey, look, a lot of this movie, story-wise, for how it started doesn't make sense. So
yeah, that
yeah,
we will agree on.
yeah.
I think Andrew probably liked this movie.
Just gonna call him out like that.
I think he did. I'm just like
Well, okay,
I don't think he's all with
like I
me.
said, I didn't
I
have
think
a
he's more
problem.
with I think he's more with you. I don't
Yeah,
know if he's gonna rank
probably.
it as high, but I think he's more on your line of thinking on
I'm
this.
gonna be perfectly honest. The reason I ranked it high was solely based on the cinematography.
I
I
know.
really liked the cinematography of
Well,
this movie.
you have to. I
Um,
have to assume that because everything else that I've said was wrong about it. You've been like, yeah, I agree with that.
oh, 100%. 100%. I enjoyed the concept of kind of following this in like the war photographer, and I thought it was an interesting concept. I liked how they did it cinematic wise.
Yeah.
But the story behind it of and there's so many holes and unanswered questions doesn't make it a good movie or doesn't make it a great movie.
Yeah. I don't think it's a
That's
good movie
the
either,
yeah,
but
yeah. Yeah. For just the plot, it's got to be like a two, maybe three. But
oh man, on that we can agree because I'll rank it as I don't remember if I've said my rank yet, but I'll go
no,
to
you
give it like a
hadn't.
I'll go to give it like a 3 out of 10, man. Probably needs to be lower, but you
Oh,
did
I mean,
remind me of this.
mine,
You did also remind me of the cinematography, and I'm like,
yeah.
that wasn't bad. So I will give it that, but
Hey, look,
that's about all I will
in
give it.
for this movie, I just went straight for cinematography,
Dude, you have
and
to. That's the only thing
the
that's good about it.
the cinematography, the concept was good, the execution was poor.
Well, a lot of good movies have a lot of movies have good concepts. It's just the way that they're executed.
Hey, look, there are so
With
many
the
movies
exception of
nowadays.
with the exception of The Room, a lot of movies have good concepts.
Hey, look, The Room will always be a 1, but a 10 in my heart. Such a great movie for
Uh,
so many terrible reasons.
on the plus, after I was like, after I watched that movie with Andrew, I was like, okay, there's good news and bad news. To
I
basically
understand what rock
encapsulate.
bottom is.
Yeah, yeah, that's basically it. It's like good news and bad news. I now know rock bottom. I
But
thought
it's
it was
one of those
Captain Marvel, but no, The Room.
it's it's one of those things. That movie is one you have to see at least once in your life to understand just how bad it is. But
Yeah,
unlike Captain Marvel, it's a funny movie because of how bad it is.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That one's a movie that if you try to take seriously, it's not going to be fun. But if you take it out of pocket and
yeah,
you're able to point and laugh at it and see how bad it is, it's still not fun. But you are able to be able you can better yourself in figuring
it's
out how
somewhat
to.
fun, just a little bit.
I could see it with
Especially,
maybe friends,
oh,
but by
hi,
yourself,
Mark.
no.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of
With
those
with
movies you
friends,
100% watch
with
with
friends,
friends.
I could see that. By yourself, I would hate my life. That's
Yeah, yeah. It is not a watch by yourself movie
it. No, it's not. It is not. No,
unless
no.
you have nothing better to do and you're just really I don't even know what mood you would be in to watch
Oh,
that.
suicidal. Like,
I
oh well,
I
it
I,
could be worse.
I could have made this movie
I could have been
and
in
yet
that. Yeah,
it's still, a very well-known movie, more so than other like very high budget movies. So
yeah, dude.
was it really that bad then?
Man. Yeah, it's bad even according to some of the more modern movies that are coming out too. It's like, wow. I mean,
Yep,
it's more in line with them, but man.
true, true.
All right, that's all I got on this. How about you?
Yep,
I think I've said my piece.
I think we've both said our piece on
I
this.
basically said everything but the cinematography sucks. So
Yes. Yes. And I think, that's the staple of this movie.
yeah. So all right. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Galactic Reviews. Join us next week when we'll be watching The Fall Guy. And we'll see you next time on Galactic
I mean,
Reviews.
I'm so excited to see that movie.